I would certainly say that the inflationary, the sort of projected path for inflation in the United States would be significantly lower. And that would quite naturally correspond into more freedom for the Fed to cut rates. No doubt about that in my mind. It is possible that, firms front-loaded a lot of stuff ahead of the early April deadline. They may even be eating it initially through their margins, but none of that is sustainable. So I think, I'm on the team that thinks inflation is coming, unless.
Well, and I guess we'll get a sense when we get U.S. CPI data tomorrow as to whether or not it is starting to feed through into inflation, knowing that higher tariffs still could be coming just weeks from now, Jacob, as August 1st, of course, is the new deadline we're working with. And the European Union specifically is now being threatened with a 30% tariff on that date. The EU's trade chief, Maros Sefcovic, says that effectively would prohibit trade between the U.S. and EU. Do you view that the same way?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that, even if the 30% do not necessarily include the categories that are already affected by sectorals, that will be autos and steel and aluminum, there'll be a very, very large amount of trade that simply won't be profitable at a 30% tariff. So what this will do is that it will greatly diminish the overall amount of trade that is done. And I think importantly also what that means is that Trump's threat to match any possible EU retaliation to those 30% probably is not very influential for the EU, because the initial hit to trade has already been so large. And therefore, it's not a particularly effective deterrent, in the eyes of the EU from its retaliation.
So should we start stockpiling wine and cheese now?
Well, I think yes is the short answer. If you believe that the prospects for a deal are much lower today than they were last week, I am certainly in that category. I think the EU quite clearly have interpreted the 30%, which is obviously much higher than the initial April 2nd 20%, as kind of a slap in the face. And basically, using the EU's, and I think honest attempt to get a deal as a sign of weakness, and as therefore an opportunity to squeeze the EU even more once the prospects of some framework of a deal agreed between the EU Trade Commissioner, USTR, and the Department of Commerce reached the White House. So yes, I think the probability, unfortunately, of a no-deal scenario today is higher than last week. And yes, that probably means that you should at least think about stockpiling stuff you'd like from Europe.
Well, it also raises the question of where Europe would turn if trade was effectively cut off in at least large part with the United States. As European officials, Jacob, are now talking about this idea that it will increase engagement with other countries that have been affected by U.S. tariffs. Could the end result of this actually just be a reorientation of the global trading system away from the United States and actually more toward countries like China?
I don't know if more towards China, given that trading with China, certainly from the EU's perspective, today is a very unbalanced, endeavor as well. But no doubt that the EU is very strongly pursuing, deeper trade ties with quote unquote third countries. This weekend, we had the political conclusion of an EU-Indonesia free trade agreement. The EU is also plowing ahead with the potential free trade agreement with India, as well as other members of ASEAN, Thailand, Malaysia, and others. They have obviously recently struck deals with Mercosur in the better part of the South American economy. So absolutely, I think what you are seeing is that countries that still believe in the benefits of free trade, they're going to trade more with each other and less with the United States. Maybe also less with China because of the risk of Chinese overcapacity and sort of excess export growth. But among themselves, absolutely, that's what we will see, which ironically is something that, maybe the Trump administration actually wants at some level by levying so high tariffs on so many U.S. trading partners.
What do you make, Jacob, of the decision to not retaliate? Ursula von der Leyen says there won't be any retaliation ahead of the deadline on August 1st. Is it smart not to escalate?
I think if you're the European Commission, it's a smart move. Because remember, if there is retaliation, this would be by far the largest trade retaliation in European history. The cost of that will be borne by the member states. So if there was any doubt about who wanted that trade escalation, if the Commission could in any sense or shape be accused of being escalatory or hawkish in these negotiations, there'll be a lot of incoming fire headed to the European Commission and Ursula von der Leyen from member state governments. So she's basically insulating herself from doing that by saying, look, we want to make sure that if this comes to a trade war, it's Donald Trump that fires the first shot, not us. So yes, I think it is smart. And obviously from a European point of view, because, Europeans view tariffs as a bad idea. And if you do that, of course, you should use any possible option to avoid it. So absolutely, yes. Keep negotiating until, 11:55 p.m. on August 31st.